real spiel. It's Sunday afternoon, and I have recognized, realized, and acknowledged some things that I want you to acknowledge too. This is not for everybody, but this is for some of you. Some of you are a parable to all those around you. In fact, your life, to most people, is something that could never truly be understood. You are a mystery, even though you are not mysterious. You are cryptic, even though you attempt to speak clear. You are parabolic, even though your goal is to be comprehensive. People will not get you, and there's nothing you can do about it. It is because of your design. It is because of who you are. It is because of what you have been put on this earth to do and to be. And irregardless of your attempts to be transparent, to be open, to be forthright, you will be missed and misconstrued. When Jesus was leaving, this is what he brought to us and left us with this. It wasn't meant to be a parable, but he left us with it anyway. In the Gospel of John, you can check it yourself, in chapter 21 and in verse 22, as he is giving his final ancillary statements while he moves from the place of the incarnation and moves himself into the spirit of truth within us. He says these last words to Peter and asks Peter to follow him. Ask Peter some key instructions to reintroduce Peter to the covenant of being the apostle that he chose him to be. And in Peter's final, I would say, carnal act in the presence of Christ, he looks at John, the apocalyptic writer, the John of the Gospel of John and the epistles of John. And John, being a mere teenager at the time, points to him and says, "Lord, you're calling me, but what should this man do?" And Jesus, in his last formal teaching of Peter, says to him in verse 21 something that leaves us confused. And even the writer of the Gospel of John says the brethren were confused as well. He says this. He says, "What if I were to tell him to wait until I come? What is that to you? You follow me." And the writer writes in verse 23, I believe, says, "And it was spoken amongst the brethren that the apostle John was not supposed to die. But the Lord did not say that he was not supposed to die. He said, what if I were to say, wait until I come?" And interestingly enough, when we look at the life of the apostle John, he was the apostle that lived the longest. We have a very dubious record of his death. They attempted to kill him multiple times, and he survived. And we believe and know, some believe, some know, some assume that he lived out his life in the Isle of Patmos, where he wrote the book of Revelations. But still, the mystery and the cloak and the veil of what has truly happened and transpired with him still sits with us in the church. Because he was supposed to give us mystery. Without the Gospel of John and his epistles and the book of Revelations, the church loses its most, I would say, heightened spiritual revelation of the person of Christ. It loses its eschatological look into the future of the church and the world and the closing moments of the church age. It reveals the true mystery of what has taken place in respect to Christ dying on a cross, coming back from the dead, and what will take place in the latter years. And we are left with the nostalgia of biblical, I would say, biblical imagery, where we cannot 100% put our finger on it, but the Spirit of God speaks to us and we know. And this is where I come to. Many of you are similar to what Jesus said to John. He is speaking to everybody else. He is giving everybody else instructions. Everybody else seems to have a defined purpose, but he leaves some people in a place of mystery. I'm telling you right now, that's many of you, and it's some of you who really have this, I would say, and people call it an overactive spiritual imagination, or an overactive call, that God is asking you to do things that other people are not being asked to do, asking you to go places and have a level of calling, a level of revelation that other people just don't have. Listen, he is saying to you, what if I tell you just to stay there until I come? Time, what does this brother say here? It says, time left me behind for the ingathering this morning. Greeting. Tierra Lloyd. Hey, hey. There are moments in our life, ladies and gentlemen, where we are simply dumbfounded, befuddled at why us? Why has this been my path? Why has this been my burden to carry? Why have I taken this road, God? What did I do wrong? Look at that person over there. They have, what about them? And God is saying, what about them? What about them? Don't worry about them. There's a two-part conversation happening here. It is the Peter conversation and the John conversation. The Peter conversation is the world is looking at you saying, but what should be your responsibility? What should be your task? What should be your objective? What should be your job? And God is saying there are some people that even you spiritual individuals need to simply leave alone. They belong to me. I know what I'm doing with them. And you will never understand the mission that I've given them. Follow the mission I've given you. And to some people, you need to say, mind your Jesus business. To some people don't understand you at all. You are spiritually weird. You are a conundrum. You are oxymoronic to their very spiritual nature and even their everyday concept of logic and linear thinking. You are not you are not everyone's cup of tea. And so they have pointed and said, what about them? But somehow the extent of your longevity still remains. God is still working with you. God is still using you. You are still in the picture. You are still in the game. You look around and say to yourself, well, why am I here? Why do I still exist in this Pathmos experience, in this remote scenario? But then God gives you brilliance and access to information and objective thought and back and behind the mountain understanding that other people don't have. Some of you have been given more, even though you've been given less. Oh man. Some of you have been given the mountaintop. Some of you, that's what you've been given. You've been given the mountaintop. There's nothing in the mountaintop. When Lot went to the valley, when Lot looked and said, where should I go? And he looked to the valley. He said, oh wow, the valley looks really good down there. The valley looks fantastic. Look at the valley. The valley looks amazing. It's bustling. It's a place for sheep. It's a place for growth. And he went to the valley. Abraham stayed at high ground, but Lot went to the valley. But we know what took place down there. Lot inherited Sodom. Lot inherited Gomorrah. Lot inherited the world when Abraham had the promise. There are some of us that are simply sitting there waiting for the promise, and your life might not even look like the promise. Your life might look messy as heck, but some of you have been given the mountain. The mountaintop, when Moses went up to the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights, and they thought he was lost, they thought he was gone. They started making golden calves. They said, who can survive on the mountain? Who can live on the mountain? There's nothing on the mountain to sustain itself. The only thing on the mountain is God. I think when King read his speech, that he said he's seen the mountaintop. He recognized that this world, there was not much left here for him. People say that Dr. King prophesied his own death. I think I prophesied his presence with God. He saw that his destiny had been accomplished, and everything that he was supposed to do down here, it was written. It was written. It was done. There was one of the sons of Noah. The Bible says that he walked with God and he was not. An old preacher spoke about it, that this man, he probably prayed every day with God, walked with God every day, talked with God every day. And one day God said, listen, you're a lot closer to my house than you are to your house. You might as well stay with me. We have something that we have to look at when we look at this world, and we have to reacquaint ourselves. And the Judeo-Christian mentality acquaints us with this, that the world has never belonged to us. The world is never our inheritance. It's never our reward. I know many of you have adopted some of this popular new religion, this new Christianity, this new houses that I haven't built and wells that I did not dig. And I understand that. I get it. I understand that you're looking for land, and you're looking for a place, and you're looking for that second level that God has assigned you with here. But I'm telling you that some of you have been prescribed the mountain. Some of you are Levitical. Some of you have no natural inheritance. Some of you have an Aaronic call on your life. You don't have the call of Dan and the call of Benjamin. You have a call where God is saying, I have given you the priesthood, and that's enough. Some of you have been told, listen, my grace is sufficient for you, period. Take it and shut up. Some of you have been put in that place. And so it behooves you to stop looking at everyone else and saying, but her car is bigger, but her business is growing, but his marriage is better. It behooves you to say, what has God given me? Let me polish that. Let me look at that, and let me pay attention to the things that I have in my hand. Many of you are digging for gold that is you're never going to dig up. You've got the treasure map. You have the Geiger counter. You know exactly where you think the gold is, but God said, listen, I am your great exceeding reward, and everything you look for in this world, it will not come to you. Some of you have gone back fishing when God has made you fishers of men, and you're not going to catch anything until he tells you to throw your nets on the other side. I don't know, but I've recognized it in myself. I've recognized it in myself. And I have a level of peace with it. And don't get me wrong, God's going to give you your little moments and your silos of peace. You're going to have your calm amidst the storm. But let me tell you what most of you don't realize. Some of you have been made for the storm. Some of you, the storm is afraid of you. Some of you have been made to tread upon serpents and scorpions. Other people have been looking to protect their feet, but some of you, your feet have been shod with the gospel of peace. Shoes that you can walk on things that other people can't walk. Feet that you can tread amongst things that other people can't deal with and handle. And you've got to realize that it might not be your moment to stand up and walk on some things yet. It might be your moment to sit down and to wait at your pool of Bethesda until somebody tells you, are you ready to stand up? Listen, take it easy. You're still breathing. You're still having your time. There's a roof still over your head. But I'm here to let you know that some of you are a mystery. And this is the good thing. This is the good thing that I have for you. Some of you are going to be sitting drinking tea on your enemies' graves. The same people that supposedly got over on you, the same folks that you looked at and said, man, your life is better, and God, how can you do this to me? You're going to be sitting there having cupcakes on their tombstone, because God has given you a level of longevity, which is the greatest treasure that man has, its life. So maybe we need to exhale, some of us. Maybe we need to calm down. Maybe we need to stop praying certain prayers, asking for stuff that God says, that's not in your catchment. That's not in your repertoire. That will not be something I put on your resume. Some of us need to realize godliness with contentment is great gain. I don't know. I'm just talking off the top of my head. So I pray to you and for you that you stop trying to invoke a God who is simply standing in your presence saying, won't you just take what is in my hand? You know the God of this Bible doesn't need to be invoked. He is everywhere. You don't have to invoke him. You invoke a spirit. You don't invoke the who is omnipresent. But this is the problem, that many times God is in your present, but you are not in his presence. And you need to step into the agenda God has for you. This was Peter's issue. Peter did not understand that God has an agenda for him, and he has an agenda for John. Again, the Gospel of John, chapter 21 and verse 22. God had an agenda for Peter, but Peter was asking God, what is your agenda for him? And God saying, you focus on the agenda I have for you. What if the agenda I have for him is simply just to remain? So, stop trying to be other people. Stop trying to pray that you get other people's blessings. Because I tell you right now, anything in the spirit that has your name on it, nobody else can open it. Nobody else can unlock it. Nobody else can carry it. It'll be too big for them. It'll be too tough for them. It'll be too confusing to them. Any book, any revelation that God has for your eyes, nobody else will be able to read it. I'm telling you. And you don't want them to be able to read it. Because if somebody else can read your blessing, if somebody else can read what God has for you, it's a curse. Mene, mene, tekel, tekel. You have been weighed in the balances and you have been found wanting. If when Daniel read the words that were written on the wall that the hand wrote, and he could read it without interpretation, when he could look at it and read it, it was because those words those words were against the king. The things that God has for you, you're going to read it clearly, openly, and it will happen for you. And I hope it happens for you soon. I hope it happens for you soon. So, God bless you guys. I hope you have an amazing Sunday. I just had to give you that because it was something that it just came to me. It just came to me. And this is the last part. This is where I'm ending it at. When Lot, in the same analogy, saw the valley, lived out his life in the valley. Watch this. Everything you take to Sodom can't leave. Everything that you got in Sodom can't leave. And Lot, we know what the scenario took place with Lot's wife. He didn't find her in Sodom. Some of us think that he married a Sodomite. He did not. He actually got her from Ur of Hazim. He took her to Sodom. In fact, his children were not even born in Sodom, the two girls. But what was in Sodom left in her. And what she looked back for. That's why they said, don't look back. What she looked back for, God held her accountable for. There are some things that you have walked out of, and it's not for you to look back at it. It's for you to say, thank God I've been delivered from it. Period. Thank God I've been delivered from it. Don't look back for it. Don't turn into your pillar of salt. It's your time to move on. You've dwelt on this mount too long. God bless you, and I'll talk to you soon.